Welcome to the Emperor Dynamite podcast, home of unchained free speech. Unleash your voice.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau declaring a public emergency for the first time in the country's history.
Hello, I am Emperor Dynamite while he continues to work on his audio setup. Happy to have you along on this grand adventure as I continue to expand my podcast. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 3. Has America lost its marbles? We're diving into the economic chaos unfolding before our eyes. From Washington's latest declaration of economic war and its consequences to the unsettling reality that Mark Carney and Justin Trudeau might as well be the same person, we'll break down how political elites are reshaping the global order to serve their own interests. And if that wasn't enough, we'll explore how the U.S. administration seems to be swapping old allies for new friends in all the wrong places, namely, with dictators and authoritarian regimes. So, has America truly lost its marbles? If so, let us just hope they do not end up clattering around in the pockets of the very people who would like to see it fall. In February 2025, the Wall Street Journal's editorial board criticized President Trump's decision to impose significant tariffs on imports from Canada and Mexico, labeling it the dumbest trade war in history. The U.S.-Canada trade war, initiated under the Trump administration, has been widely criticized as the definitive how-to manual for performing international economics poorly. Tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum were defended by citing a national security rationale that left jaws agape considering Canada's position as a reliable ally. This put diplomatic relations in tension and rattled economic systems long since harmonized for decades. These expenses were paid by American consumers only days after the trade war had started. The tariffs that rose raised the prices of essential products like cars, refrigerators, and canned beverages, anything that relied on steel or aluminum. For those households already teetering on the edge, this extra cost was a direct result of the administration's policy, placing another weight on the wallets of ordinary Americans. Small businesses, long considered the backbone of America's economy, were particularly badly hurt. Most such firms relied on low-cost Canadian imports to stay in business. Tariffs gave them a grim choice: raise their prices to consumers and lose customers, or eat the added expense themselves and face layoffs and financial struggle. It wasn't a hiccup in their business plan, it was a death blow for many small companies. The policy also undercut its stated goal of protecting American workers. By driving up costs in industries like vehicle manufacturing and construction that depend on imports from Canada, the tariffs created economic obstacles that led to reduced hiring, and in a couple of cases, layoffs. Instead of securing workers, the trade war put some of them in an even more precarious place than they were before. Diplomatic relations with a close friend, Canada, were thoroughly shaken in these years. Declaring Canadian imports a national security threat brought incredulity and exasperation. The effect was not solely economic. It eroded confidence and collaboration between two partners long dependent upon one another's success. Canada, meanwhile, began diversifying its trading partnerships to reduce reliance on the U.S., a strategic response to the hostile trade environment. While this might have been a smart move for Canada, it meant fewer opportunities for American companies to collaborate with their northern neighbor, further isolating U.S. businesses. Critics argue that these tariffs were less about sound economic policy and more about political grandstanding. The short-term political narrative of standing firm for U.S. workers came at the expense of long-term economic well-being and consumer welfare. Not a victory. The trade war caused American families financial harm, endangered enterprises, strained friendships, and made both nations poorer in the end. The hard-won lesson is clear. Trade wars do not tend to be as easy to win as optimists would believe. A perfect example is the egg price crisis in the U.S. has been a hot topic lately, with prices soaring to unprecedented levels. This surge is largely due to a severe outbreak of avian flu, which has led to the culling of millions of egg-laying hens, significantly reducing supply. At its peak, the price of a dozen eggs reached over $8, 10 USD in some areas, though it has recently started to decline. The crisis has also sparked political debates, with some viewing it as a symbol of broader economic challenges. Efforts are underway to stabilize prices, including government initiatives and increased imports. However, the situation remains a concern for many households and businesses. Canada's got a surplus of eggs. Perfectly ironic, right? And the U.S. is running low, but those trade restrictions are getting in the way of a speedy fix. Instead of just letting supply and demand handle it, tariffs and quotas get in the way and force prices up. If the U.S. were to drop restrictions, it would calm prices and help consumers. Politics and lobbying instead of economics frequently. Control trade policy. U.S. egg producers might oppose Canadian imports because they do not wish to face competition, even if it makes Americans pay more. This is not how a true conservative would act. It appears that they are trying to satisfy the leader in the Oval Office by providing information that he prefers to hear rather than what is necessary for him to know. It's the same in other industries, too, like lumber, dairy, and steel. Free trade would heal shortages, but governments don't always do what is best for the consumer. Canada has always been willing to help, but politics stand in the way. Canada is a resource-producing country. America is manufacturing country. This had been the base of trade relations for decades. The United States is waging almost identical trade disputes countries around the world. You know what's amusing? Trump wondered who could make such a bad trade deal with Canada when he himself negotiated it. He tossed out NAFTA, pushed through USMCA, said it was a big win, and now he's acting like it's another guy's failure. It's like blaming the chef for a terrible meal when you prepared it yourself. Donald Trump has always been a master of distraction. But the question is, why now? And what is he attempting to distract from? Whenever there is economic hardship, legal woes, or unflattering poll numbers, there always appears to be a sudden change in headlines, a provocative comment, a high-profile spat, or a bombshell policy announcement such as new tariffs. This trend is no accident. It's a strategic move to control the dialogue and keep people reacting rather than thinking. But are we still being fooled? Or is it time to start questioning what is happening behind the curtain while the spotlight is elsewhere? Leave your theory in the comments below. Do keep in mind that Trump calling his own trade deal with Canada terrible is pure irony. Amidst all the drama, the Liberal Party has prorogued Parliament in what is seen by many as a desperate bid to avoid electoral Armageddon. The writing was on the wall. Scandals, economic stagnation, and plummeting approval ratings had left the party in tatters. With a bleak political outlook on the horizon, Trudeau took the drastic step of stepping down as leader in the hope that a new face at the helm could revive the party's fortunes. So the Liberals promptly chose Mark Carney, the former Bank of Canada and Bank of England chief, as their new leader. The thought was that Carney would be this fresh face, this brilliant, economic guy who would shake off all the drama of Trudeau's era. But realistically, rather than shaking things up, he retained over 80% of Trudeau's cabinet, which has many wondering, what's actually different this time? The faces are more or less the same. The policies have not changed significantly, and the party continues to struggle with its past mistakes. To add insult to injury, rather than putting forward innovative policies or a clear vision, the Liberals have taken to rebranding conservative policies as their own. This political calculus is not novel, but it highlights the party's inability to establish itself outside of the Trudeau era. Far from owning failure in the past and proposing radical solutions, they are picking and choosing among the popular conservative policies, modifying the messaging, and passing them off as liberal innovation. The Liberal Party has grown dismissive and evasive when responding to reporters' questions. This condescension, Previously, a hallmark of Trudeau's approach has conveniently transferred and flourished under Mark Carney, despite the promise of renewal. Frankly, this whole strategy smells more like an act of survival than a genuine reset. With the erosion of public trust, the Liberals are hoping a leadership change will turn their fortunes around. But I don't think voters will be so easily fooled. If the only real change is who is standing at the podium and the same cabinet and policies are kept in place, people might catch on to the whole charade and look for real change elsewhere. So the question is, will Canadians buy the rebrand, or are they going to want something that's genuinely different? Carney doesn't even have a seat in Parliament yet, but that hasn't stopped him from racking up over $500,000 in travel costs. When asked about it, rather than offer an explanation, he dodged the question entirely. Ring a bell? That was Trudeau's playbook. Avoid, deflect, and hope the press forgets. This is a sign that no matter who the new leader of the Liberals is, their approach to accountability remains the same. Trudeau became known for avoiding tough questions, shirking responsibility, and behaving as if proper concerns were beneath him. Now it looks like Carney is following in his footsteps with the same elitist, condescending tone that irritated so many Canadians when Trudeau was in charge. For a party that's so eager to get voters to think that it's changed, this is not quite the most effective way of doing things. If Carney is offering a new direction, why does he sound so much like his predecessor? This indifference and lack of responsibility on the part of the Liberal Party come at a time when Canada desperately needs true leadership. With rising global uncertainty and Donald Trump openly embracing dictatorship, Canada cannot afford to have a government more interested in political survival than in governance. The world is evolving, and while Trump sends a message that he is willing to cozy up to dictators and undermine democratic standards, Canada requires a leader who can stand firm, be principled, and defend democracy, both within and outside the country. What we instead have is a ruling party stuck in damage control mode, more concerned about its image than the actual challenges on the horizon. We got a major challenge ahead that the Liberals have left Canada woefully unprepared for. For decades, the United States was the chief of the free world, standing up for democratic values, fostering strong alliances, and acting as a check against authoritarian regimes. Yet over the past several years, that image has collapsed, not because of outside circumstances, but because of America's own choices. The U.S. is not merely letting its allies go, it's actively pushing them away while pulling in the same dictators it once opposed. Under Trump, this about-face became painfully evident. He mocked and ridiculed NATO, even threatening to withdraw from its most significant alliances, and imposed tariffs on allies like Canada and Europe on the absurd grounds that they were national security threats. At the same time, he appeared to have nothing but respect for authoritarians like Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un, and Mohammed bin Salman. He sided with Russia against his own intelligence agencies, praised Kim and got nothing in return, and brushed off Saudi Arabia's gruesome killing of a journalist by saying, maybe they did it, maybe they didn't. That's not leadership, that's acquiescing to authoritarianism. But it's not only Trump that's the problem, it's the entire shift in how America engages with the world. This America-first isolationism has decreased the U.S. as a trusted, respected, and genuinely powerful nation. The United States has ditched its traditional allies, and China and Russia are more than ready to fill the void now. Europe is starting to wonder whether it can even count on America to defend it anymore, and countries that used to look at the U.S. as a leader are now making alliances with other countries. It is not only awkward, it's positively risky. And here's the real tragedy. America's slide into authoritarianism isn't happening abroad, it's happening at home. When an American president openly flatters dictators, undermines democratic norms, and attacks the press, it sends a message. Democracy is optional. And that message is being heard loud and clear, not just in foreign capitals, but in the halls of power within the United States itself. Here is the brutal truth. If America continues on its current course, It will no longer be the world's best democracy. It will be another fallen empire. There have been plenty of great powers throughout history that spurned their allies, embraced authoritarianism, and perished due to their own arrogance. The Romans did it. The British did it. The Soviets did it. And the United States stands now at the edge of that same cliff. If America keeps abandoning its allies and keeps violating the principles that made it great, then it ain't no foreign enemy that's going to bring it down. It'll be from within. And when that comes to pass, when we've lost all our credibility, the world isn't going to shed tears. It'll just move right on without us. Time's running out. The big question is, will America finally get it marbles together before it's too late? All right, that's all for today's episode. But next time, we're going to tackle some huge news from up north. Canada might be gearing up for an election, and we'll unpack what that will look like, who's involved, and how it has the potential to turn the entire political scene on its head. And we'll keep you updated with the latest breaking news you should know. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss it, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more.